these guys have been neglected. Because Wam and Puppy Paw, I believe they both own accounts, at least in the top 20, and they have multiple ones in the top 100. In fact, Puppy Paw has claimed the David Kim account live on our streams, so he said that that belongs to him. I'm inclined to believe him. Nobody else has contested this. Wam also owned Buster Scruggs as well as his Wam account. So you can see very quickly, if you have a look at the AOE4 world at the top of the leaderboards, you'll see these names. They're up there. They're consistently performing the highest level and even beating the best players in the game. So excited to see Wam here, especially considering that he's going to be up against DivineDFP. DivineDFP that also has some accounts in the top 100. I believe, actually, DFP recently got a second account up there. This account is 29th in the world, 1950 ELO rating. And then he made another one called, I think it was DivineDFP in reverse. So it's PF Denivid. Great name, which is 61st in the world, and I'm pretty sure it's him as well. Because, okay, I'm going to try to be unbiased, but I will be blunt about this. Not many players will want to be mistaken for DivineDFP. This guy has quite the reputation for doing one dirty little thing. Well, two, actually, but one of them is banned in this tournament. And that dirty thing is Mongol outpost rushes. An option which is not available to him throughout this whole series. So instead of whipping it out straight away, I don't know if this is an act of genius. I kind of feel like it might be. DivineDFP pulls out the roost to open on Dry Arabia, almost maybe anticipating that Wam was going to pick the Mongols himself. Because actually a good way of kind of contesting the outpost rush, Mongol and Mongol situation, you can actually play quite a condensed economy. You can rush up the castle and then you can burst out. It's very hard, I feel like, in a mirror matchup between Mongols to pin your opponent in off the back of outpost cheesing. So instead, DivineDFP is going to have to throw something else out there. Show us the magic. Instead, going to the roost, and the roosts do have some volatility to them. Volatility that could be accessible on this map, because although we are here on, I believe, I'm almost certain Dry Arabia. I had to double think it for a step, the amount of stealth forest and the layout. And this is why I had to rethink it, because the boards, look at the location of these laddies right here. Right near the center, next to tree lines. What does this mean? This means a roost player could move out, set up a proxy base after sniping the boar, and then mount an attack into the Mongol economy. And this is where Wam could get caught with his trousers down, because Mongol players do enjoy that greedy boom up. Ironically enough, they now play a lot like the Rus used to with their Castle Age rush, especially when you get a juicy, condensed start on the Uvu like this. But maybe the limitation that will make Wam think twice is the fact that his gold vein is so far away from base. That being said, in the meantime, Wam has been sniping out a bunch of the bounty and has even built a scout. Really applaud this. Like, I love that he's done this. A lot of Mongol players would have been ignorant. They wouldn't have done this unless they built a stable, because remember, the Mongols have access to their stables in the Dark Age, but you need to have that second scout alongside your Khan. You need to be combating the bounty system that your opponent is yielding extra resources out of. It's not just the gather rates over time. It's not the generation with the hunting hammers. It's actually the biggest deal, especially in this early mid-game. It's just that extra gold. It affords you free tech ups. You can see it already, right? DivineDFP hasn't gotten gold at all. And yet DivineDFP has got surplus gold. In fact, I believe, yeah, Wheelbarrow is already being researched as well. So that kind of sets it in motion. You start to understand what makes this Civ so powerful. And it is something that a lot of Roost players have gotten better at playing towards. Instead of relying on Horse Archer cheese, they look for a very rapid timing to take control of the game at the start of feudal to mid-feudal. The reason being is that you have so much additional surplus eco compared to any other Civ at that point. There's not many that really compare, and there's definitely not many that compare that can do the same level of aggression that you can. So, Divine, tracking one or two walls back. Looks like he did crack the 250 bounty mark, so you're really content. You're actually quite happy. Anything above is pretty good bonus. And there's still the option for the boars. They are far out, but as I said, that this is a flexi option you have. The only reason I imagine Divine wouldn't do it, despite the fact that this generation of Dry Arabia is glorious for it because the boars are next to all these tree lines, is that he's up against the Mongols. And the risk is that once the Mongols has Tech 2, which they should by the time you arrive at the boar, they can build quickly into a force to aggress you, because remember, with the Uvu, they have the double production available. So they can quickly ramp up a bunch of archers, spearmen, whatever it is, to rush out and beat you down before you can get protection up on the board. DivineDFP, just scouting out what his opponent's doing right now. Stable being built, Wooden Fortress back at home. So with this kind of build, I think he's pretty content. he hasn't gone for the full wood boom build. Actually, one that's become very popular recently is the double broad axe with wheelbarrow and a wooden fortress. He chooses to actually forgo that, though. I believe Guz was the first person to do this, so you can thank Ethan for like a lot of Roost players kind of hopping on the bandwagon with this. But it kind of makes sense why you'd want to get this gathering rate, right? Like, not many people choose to go hard into the eco upgrades early on. It has been kind of a pivot, and maybe situations some players desire it. But I feel like most Roost players across the board have started to get on board with this one, just because it's where you get your bonus surplus resource, right? You're getting an extra 20% on drop-off, so you want to gather that 15% quicker. It's actually bigger than the 15% because you have to add 20% onto that number. Now, you can do the maths there. It's closer to 20% overall in terms of your efficiency being added on from double broad axe. And that is especially beneficial because that's the resource that you can then have bulk of to trade for gold at all times. And now that we can move past the openings, we can start to see the plans here. Wam is going defensive. He gets into the spears. He did scout this out. It wasn't done blind. He's a smart cookie. He's not going to actually throw in on anything without a reason to do so. The problem is that DivineDFP is already 2 steps ahead of him as he gets the double archery range. And into the blacksmith, it looks like DivineDFP has put himself the clock. He wants to end this game in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And that does mean that Wam is going to need a defense force in place. He is aware this is going on. The scouting vision is actually really good from him. The question is, what's his answer going to be? And you can see DivineDFP. Yeah, he's min-maxing. He's definitely in on this timer. If you had any doubt that this guy's going for a ram rush right now, all you had to do is look across at this hunting cabin. This hunting cabin, although pricey at 100 wood, is a lot more affordable than going for pro scouts, which costs you 350 resources. And it's going to yield similar results if your win condition is to end the game in the next 5 to 10. So Wam just needs to survive. Right now, he needs to turn himself up as best he can. The Khan is going to move across with a scout to harass on these free workers, and that is going to draw DivineDFP's attention back. But I think this is a bit of a mistake. He really, if anything, needs to have a quick way of sweeping them away and then padding himself and moving forward. Because if he keeps turning around to deal with this, he's going to be in trouble, and that's where we need to happen. The wooden fortress going down a little bit delayed, and it means the archers aren't actually shifting across right now. The knights in the center are going to be repelled as the spearmen reveal, and that's a big mistake. I believe it was just a scout going down, but that's problematic right there. Like, that situation where your archers peel back, you panic farm, decide to cancel and build a wooden fortress correctly instead, because it turns out that it's better to hide in a giant wooden fortress than in a field full of ungrown wheat. But more importantly, like, you lose one of the scouts, that's 70 food. And your archers aren't in a position to punish. It means your knights can't push forward, and it means that DivineDFP's window is closing. He just wasted 30 to 40 seconds for nothing. So he needs to be very careful. Because as I said, this window does close fast, and it's why a lot of people, although they've been kind of harnessing their ram rushes and they've been sampling the potential, we do often see reluctancy to full all in. Instead, people go for this kind of half effort where they try to pressure the opponent's base, breach some of it, and then have a fallback plan. Like, oh, I done this to secure X instead. Right now, though, DivineDFP hasn't done that. Instead, he's invested heavily into protecting this food expansion. And all of a sudden, the value in this decreases, right? Because we just went from this being a 250 resource save because you didn't go for pro scouts and only put a hunting cabin, which is 100 compared to the 350, to now you invested 175 wood as well. So this just became 275 wood to do as opposed to the 350. Admittedly, it is wood, right? So the difference being you get more wood. So you have to kind of like give it a cost efficient of like 20% difference, right? So it's still a little bit more efficient than numbers I'm giving you, but it becomes less valuable as you're forced to do this more and more. And this is for only one deer site. So very important that he hits his timing, and it looks like he's doing that right now. As he moves forward, Ram is going to be built. Is one going to be good enough, though? Because I feel like the force is building quickly for Wam. Now going up to 7 horsemen. He's prepped for this. And this is the slight weakness in what Divine's done. He goes for a 3rd archery range instead of getting the racks that would protect him against these horsemen. And remember, folks, this is different to your usual ram rush. When you do this against the Mongols, they have the Yam movement speed as well. So good luck gap closing. Good luck getting away and wiggling away from all these horsemen that are now riding in, and you're out of position. Divine, what are you doing? Okay. Wam says, I don't know what this is. Actually, I do. This is a free win. Thank you very much. And now he circles in as well. He doesn't hesitate. He goes in. Maneuver arrow. Gap closes on top of him. Surrounds them. Nowhere to go. DivineDFP, what have you done? Divine's in the name, but I don't know if you're going to heaven off this one. I feel like Wam is sending you to hell. Wow. That was headless chicken mode activated right there. No idea what he wanted to do. Ram goes in. Says, wait, Rams can't be Wham, that rhymes. Turns around with it. Peels back the force before actually deciding this, though. So doesn't even have the defensive position to hold that investment. And instead, now he's being held around the neck and choked by Wham. Oh my goodness. I don't think there's nothing divine about what I've seen here. This is pure sacrilege right now. I mean, look what he's been forced to do. Now that's another investment. 2 racks is to address the problem. But how much have you lost? Look at the military count. Wham has found blood. He's bathing in it right now. That's the real reason why he's in red. And now this tech up complete. Divine is in trouble. No scalability to what he's done here. Remember, also going to this hunting cabin, we talked about you being on the timer, you having finite resources to work with. You're starting to see that as it drains. You've got, what, 3 carcasses left? Yeah, so you've got less than 1,000 food here. Actually, it's 4 carcasses, but it's about 1,000 food left on this location. After that, no sheepies, no farms, and more wood being expended into your military buildings. And more wood needed to produce those units as well. And your berry bushes are half gone as well. There's a lot of as wells in there, but all these as wells create a giant well that DivineDFP is now stuck in. And I don't think Wham's about to send down a help you rope. There's no rescue coming. Instead, he just might fill a bucket full of his crap and pour it inside. DivineDFP might not like that, but he might not have much to say about it. The Lancer's coming out is very much just going to be forced down his throat here. You see the archer rangers prepping as well, so crossbows if need be, archers also the option. I expect archers here, they're just the solution to practically everything your opponent's doing. DivineDFP doesn't actually have the economy to support multiple knights anymore. He's producing 1 or 2 here or there, but like notice that he only ever wants 1 stable. And now he's got 3 archer rangers and 3 racks. Like he's all in on the infantry, and if the infantry fail him now, the game is over. Fail him, they might just. Right now, military count almost doubling up that of Wham's, but Wham having some premium here. Hasn't upgraded the horseman just yet. That option is available to him. And I actually quite like that option, but then again, there are a lot of spearmen, so it's kind of a Le Shrug moment. Torches out, and that's another freebie. Divine is not reacting! This is bad. This is going from worse to worse every time we look. DivineDFP, seemingly too busy responding to messages on Skype, does not move quickly and does not punish this approach on his Rams. You know what? I just hope he's not being catfished for those messages because he's wasted so much time looking away from the screen, getting caught off guard multiple times. That's a heavy deficit. 600 wood, nothing gained for it. Multiple units dead. Trade's not in your favor. Tech up ahead. And now you're behind. Like, everything is down from here for Divine. I think he has 1 more effort at this. And even that, I just don't... I almost feel that you could call GG now and I'd understand it. That's not even, like, toxic. That's not even, like, negativity. It's just you are completely outscaled now. You've given too much time over. And the Mangonels are coming out as well. Man-at-Arms Mago is being built. 2 Lancers, 6 Horsemen is really all you need. He'll peel it back for the moment to shift to the southern gold line, which is definitely safe against this infantry formation. Now the Mago shot's coming out. And Divine having no answer, no way in. He's going to be forced to retreat. That's another Ram going down. Why does Divine hate Rams so much? Oh, wait. No, this guy likes spamming outposts. It makes sense now. Rams kill outposts, so it makes sense that he hates his Rams like this. Well, looks like his Rams hate him as well. They'll just go hide in the back corner, disgruntled with the way they've been treated by their owner, as DivineDFP will be owned in this fight. Front line gets minced, all just to kill 1 Mago. Main line is going to fold as well, and I think Wham's done it. There's no way that Divine can catch up anymore. He's not teching up. He hasn't got surpluses nowhere nearby. No secondary TC play. Woodline about to dry up as well. Everything has flatlined for the Roost player here. And it means that Wham will open this series up with a win and make it look all too easy on one of Divine's favorite civilizations. Abbasid versus Mongol matchup. And I think although we can kind of already tell who the Mongol player is just based on the fact that Wam no longer has it available to him. We could have seen this coming, right? DivineDFP back up against the wall. He turns to his tried and true trusty Mongols to dig him out of his grave. Let's see if they can do exactly that as we hop in. And in this situation, well, this could be a pretty interesting matchup sometimes because the Abbasids, some people would think, their economy's so good early on, they can TC boom up very easily in these choke point maps. This would be very trivial, very easy. But I wouldn't be so quick to write off the Mongols. Although the Mongols have lost their popularity, because on this map at least, because of the generations not necessarily being favorable that often to them, there is still ways that DivineDFP can make this work. Most notably, his tried and true outpost rushes that he loves to do so much. Because with the layout in this situation, when you talk about these condensed areas where there's not as many angles to cover, the Mongol player can actually box you in and prevent you from gathering anywhere with just like 2 or 3 outposts. And it has to be said that that can occur on this map. You can see it already. DS to the front, gold, stone, gold, wood, like all of it. Right here, if you drop 2 outposts on this west side of Wam's base, he's invalidated. The only thing he has is food to the east. He barely can access wood as well. He has to actually suboptimally go to the right side to do so. So I think it's very important, DivineDFP in this kind of layout, I think he needs to go aggressive with the outpost Zerg. Yeah, it's a little bit cheesy, it's a little bit scummy, but in this situation, looking where his Uvu has been generated, I don't think he can afford to just necessarily sit back and do nothing. He might feel a little bit different simply because he's got gold and wood next to him, but my big issue is the food. I say that like, he's got a few sheep to begin with, but he needs pastures, right? His deer are too far out, and that's why he will go for the rack straight away. I applaud this play. I know. I can't believe it. I applauded a filthy outpost Zerging Mongol player, because that's exactly what I can already sense is coming. But you have to understand that with this generation, the way this has happened, DivineDFP doesn't have a choice. Some people, they have some not nice words to say about this guy when they meet him on the ladders because he does like the outpost rush a lot. But in this situation, it is the optimal build. And considering he does like the outpost rush a lot, he should be pretty damn good at it. And he is up against a Civ that is susceptible to this problem because, well, the Abbasids, like, what are your options early? You can go into Spears, but your opponent is double producing them. You can go to the Archers, but that means that the outposts go down, you don't actually have a counter. It's very important, I think, if Wam wants to survive what's coming, he needs a quick access to the feudal age. As quick as possible, in fact. Like, he's already shifting on the wood in prep for the archery range being needed, I assume. But he needs to make sure that he has that feudal force of archers. I think if he goes for horsemen or he goes for spears here, the game shifts heavily in favor of DivineDFP. You know what lets him know what he can do? Scouting. Scouting is very important here, especially considering Wam went for double scout. Interestingly enough, hasn't checked on his opponent, though. And Wam, although he did shift around here, maybe he feels he doesn't have to check on him because he saw this Uvu. When you see an Uvu like this against a Mongol player, if you played Mongol yourself, you understand that this is almost impossible to eco-boom with. You're going to be delayed far too much, especially against an Abbasid player, and that is exactly why he already knew what was coming his way. Double scout, chasing off the villager. Spear's going to chase him away, though, and his tech up is a long way out, a minute off. And remember, one villager takes 45 seconds to build an outpost. That's enough time to shift across and be halfway through the second outpost. That's not even considering the fact that Wam will need to build his own military production builds, which take 30 seconds. So these delays are going to be pricey for Wam. It means that DivineDFP will get 2 of the 3 outposts required to box in Wam. And remember what we said, 2 outposts invalidates most of what Wam can get out of his base. The only thing you'll have is berries and wood at the back. Oh, this might be a freebie. This is really not looking good for Wam right now. Giving him the mining camp for free, that's going to give 50 resources over your opponent. That's going to stunt your any opportunity to start accessing into golden ages as well. And it has to be said that, like, right now, this is the only area on the map you can play. Wam is very much condensed, and this is one of the issues outside. When you start getting boxed in like this, you find yourself scarce on space. It's not resources that run out first. It's places to place things, right? And if you get forced into a farmland transition early, that takes up a lot of space. If you are, needing new military production buildings and you have no wiggle room right there, you might not be able to get the counter out. And this is actually why we see a lot of people on outside, they struggle to hit their transition timing on farms. Outside of England. England are able to do it freely, right? Because it's 37 wood each. But most other civs don't have that same wiggle room to just easily cruise into it, because they're always worried about the space as well as the limited wood, because wood is one of the, if not the most scarce resource on Altai. This outpost, he's denied it. Nicely done, Wam! So busy looking at the shivs coming out for the scouts, didn't quite notice that he surrounded and killed off this villager who was halfway through building the outpost. Wham! He just found himself a lifeline. Oh my god, that's actually so big as well. Like, I can't begin to emphasize how important this was. If Wam didn't deny that, he's kind of screwed, right? Like, not completely. Like, there's maybe a 10%, 20% chance he can break out. If he outplays, we can always talk about, you know, if you totally outplay an opponent, sure. But in terms of, like, how this matchup then plays out, too much of your equity's been denied. And it's a staging point which Divine can ramp up from, right? He can raid around the sides. But now that you deny the second outpost going up, the only thing that DivineDFP is saying you can't do is TC boom. Which is fine, because Wam will still have a win condition if he chooses to rush towards a castle age timing, knowing that DivineDFP cannot match him due to the way his base has been laid out. You can see he's already been forced to invest into a Gur. That Gur, by the way, is going to be nowhere near the Deerstone. The Deerstone will, of course, eventually be shifted. But the issue that I already see is, like, DivineDFP's base already looks stretched. So it's questionable whether he's going to be able to sustain full value out of a Deerstone between the forward line and the back line. And if that's not the case, that means he'll have to invest early into an outpost simply for the Yam buffer. And those are pricey. They're still at 100 wood. And every single time I say 100 wood, you see how this begins to add up. And it means that Wam, with things like that fresh food stuff discount, will probably be able to access a castle age timing quicker than the Mongol player is able to. You know what? Wam doesn't want that. He is going for the stone. And luckily he's got enough archers here to protect him against the poor little naked card that's only about to reach hardened status. But even at hardened status, only 4 damage and 3 archers here could be problematic. So he'll probably have to keep running. I like that Wam went for this, by the way. He did have the option to go for castle age, but like, the reason you don't necessarily rush towards that choice in this matchup is because although you probably would, with the generations, crack castle quicker than the Mongol player by half a minute to a minute, you wouldn't necessarily get the same power spike. Because if your argument is, I can build siege, well, cool, bro, so can the Mongols. They have to pay a little bit in siege engineering costs, but they'll get the same ability. So really, your real power spike is your ability to TC boom at this stage, with fresh food stuff making it very efficient. Then you arrive at castle age, maybe with this generation a minute later than the Mongol player, but you will be stronger because you'll instantly be able to afford the siege weapons, which DivineDFP will be struggling to claw the golden wood together for. Another force away, so Spearmen have to retreat once again. Never able to burn this down, actually. I don't think they ever set this on fire, so this is kind of frustrating, right? You invested wood into this outpost, had to deny it. Lost the village in the process. Only got 1 outpost down that really didn't achieve anything. It's attacking a House of Wisdom, sure, but that could take a million years to kill. Your issue right now is that you're just not really finding value out of this rush investment. And some people look and go, oh, DivineDFP just, like, misplayed this. He didn't really have another choice, guys. Like, this generation, I have to really highlight this importantly. This was not a fun generation for a Mongol player. This was the only way he could play it, and it looks like he did go for that outpost we were talking about before, so he can keep the Deerstone near the front to buffer his units so they can rush to the front quicker. I respect this play. He has to do it again, and also have a Gur. So that's 2 Gurs now. And he's also being forced to the marketplace because, you know, his macro is a little bit off. Maybe even he's considering selling stone to get quicker castle timing. But this is really frustrating. This whole generation doesn't feel good right now. The only good thing for DivineDFP in terms of generation is if he maintains control in the midfield, he has got these gold veins that kind of Congo line towards his opponent's base. So he will have efficient gathering constantly on the step readouts as they shift vein to vein. And it looks like Wam has gone into the Camel Archers. We'll start building the Ram now. And I like this. I don't mind having 1 or 2 Camel Archers. My issue is when a person overinvests. I've talked about this before. I think Camel Archers are actually pretty damn good around Castle Age. The big issue I see with a lot of Abbasid players is that they invest in 5, 6, 7, 8 of them in Feudal Age without much justification out of their opponent. If your opponent isn't building spears or have knights, you have to question whether you need more than 1, 2, maybe 3 Camel Archers. Second TC did go up in the back. This is the benefit, right? Like, this second Berry Bush probably was the biggest thumbs up for Wam. Because that's what matters right now. If you want to go multi-TC, you need your stone, but then you need extra food sources to justify your second TC, to float it, right? And then also, the cool thing is because of the layout of this, he actually now has safe room to extend farms into the backside. And he will likely move to this backside eventually, just walling it off. So intriguing kind of layout when you consider like the wider play for Wam around the 15 to 20 minute mark. He's going to have a lot of room to set up farms, but he does need to be careful because he's up against the Mongols. And the Mongols are currently on their way up into castle. And the reason this is important isn't just the fact that, like we talked about, like Mongols really come online as a civ in castle now. It's the fact that if you find yourself relying on farms soon, well, those are easy targets for the Mongols. Because if you burn farms, you get paid 50. And they are very flimsy structures with barely any health. And Bagadels can pick them apart. In fact, go try it in your pub games. If you see someone set up a farmland with a mill in the center, target the mill with your Magadel, 3 shots in, almost everything's on fire. It's so powerful. And if you're playing the Mongols, you get paid 50 resources for each of those structures put on fire, which in that setup is going to be, well, 8 of those structures are going to go on fire pretty quickly because the farms have limited health. Mill will take a bit longer, but you can see how that adds up quickly. You're getting 400 resources. You're almost paying for the Magadel simply by burning farms. And that's why I think Wam is going to have to be very careful about whether he switches over to farmlands. And if he does so, he might have to do it near his primary TC, maybe between the 2 TCs, or back in this corner over here. But you know what? We're getting ahead of ourselves because Wam might not want to wait around that long. He's already moving forward. Ram archers wrapping around here. Camel archers checking in on the Uvu, and the scout is giving maintained vision for Wam. The real question is, what can he do with this? My issue is this is not a very strong force. It almost feels like it's a throwaway force for Wam. And the issue is your opponent has mad at arms. So using this as a throwaway force doesn't make much sense. I can understand it from staging point, right? Like, if he fights me here and I just kite him out, he's nowhere near my base. But, the Ram maybe just ends up being wasted investment here. I think the play for Wam is he wants to draw attention with the range units, and then the Ram gets freebie shots onto the buildings. And if DivineDFP chooses to attack the Ram with the man-at-arms, then he'll just pew-pew him with the range units. And yeah, here we go. So, force the garrison out. Starts firing on the man-at-arms. Understands that he's gonna, eventually lose this Ram anyway. So he might as well kill off a few man-at-arms before they can start amassing. And this is turning into a reasonable trade. Keep in mind what the cost of man-at-arms are here. 120 resources per, and also he's already set fire to the outpost. There's not enough man-at-arms here, so the outpost will go down. And now he can move forward. Chasing on the villagers, might snipe 1 or 2 out, but instead prioritizing the man-at-arms. I love this out of Wam. He's denying so much food right now. DivineDFP is really very much kind of scarce on his food source, right? It's a good thing he set up these pastures, otherwise he'd be denied right now. So really well played by DivineDFP. Frustrating decision he had to make as well, going extra pastures to pad himself due to the fact that the Uvu is displaced. But now the other issue is Uvu being displaced. Your opponent can exploit you, right? He can poke and prod at these units as they come out. You kind of see the issues now. The card is frustrating, at least, for the camels. But now, because the Ram is moving forward after setting fire to a building to move with your racks, you now have to start addressing it. That means your man-at-arms can be poked and prodded at with these range units, which more of them are coming. Now 6 camel archers, made that 5 as 1 dies. But Wam, he's turning the pressure around. And his Variant card is starting to take a lot of damage, which means he can't stay around for the drive-bys. He does at least get rid of the big pressure there as the Ram will go down. And, oh my god, Wam is just playing him like a fiddle. These man-at-arms are just casually being picked apart. And while this is happening, Wam is teching up. He's almost completing Incarcelate himself. And you have to feel like DivineDFP, at this stage, after being Incarcelate for this long, he hasn't found any real value for it. And Wam just continues to just chip away at any military lead he can build. Archers will finally be targeted. And because there's no outpost here, right, this is the ripple effect, by the way. This is how small things make a world of difference here. As I think the Gurs can explode as well. Good lord. Notice that all this is enabled by the fact that, yes, camel archers would always be faster than man-at-arms, but these man-at-arms are not yanked. They were moving at 1.12 movement speed. The Deerstone has finally been relocated, but that's what was making this so hard. If DivineDFP at least had the Yam, he would be able to gap close at a reasonable pace, and less effective fire would come out from Wam's units. But instead, Wam just keeps the pressure up. The Deerstone will make it hard for him to do now, but he's doing a great job of delaying these initial Mangonels from going up. And also, after this all happens, he'll be able to shift away quickly with his healthy line of camel archers. And that should be where he just backs up. He'll see the Mangonels done. Wam's smart cookie. He understands his opponent must be online with that now. His scouting vision was denied, but it just makes sense with the timing. Only 1 man-at-arms coming out. then falling back. Like, all of them must have been zerging to build that up. So he'll give a little bit of breathing room. But more importantly, this is breathing room for him. And look what Wam does with it. He goes into the mosque. A ballsy play in this situation, considering, like, the relic generation is, well, not like, terrible, but not, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, right? Like, you haven't got one right outside your base, and then one in the back corner, then one your side the center. And I think something that people kind of sleep on is, like, this is a big investment, right? Like, mosque costs 200 wood. Then you have to pay 150 gold per imam. Losing any of these is costly. And the issue I see is your opponent is already about to push into your base, so your imams are going to have to be very snaky about going out the back. They can never go out the front. And if they ever get noticed, well, that's just more gold in the negative when you want to be gaining. But really, when I look at Wam's economy, it's fine. Like, look at the surplus food right now. He actually needs to sort his military district. Because the biggest issue I see right now is he's not producing enough units. And he's looking to fix that now. Phalanx being researched is going to look to get in the Spearman. Mangonel's moving in. They can destroy buildings pretty fast, folks. Like, don't underrate the damage these things do to structures. And will do to your village allies. Wham! He doesn't realize! Peels back just in time. Loses a few villages in the process, but a lot less than he should have there, as he did not react quickly. DivineDFP will back up. I love what Divine's doing here. Take note of this, folks. This is huge. Divine has turned this game around because of this structure right here. Deerstone has done so much work for it. It allowed him to buffer the camels away in the back of his base after he lost the outpost. And now is propelling him forward towards his opponent's base because the Deerstone can be packed up and moved elsewhere. It's a mobile YAM network, and it's got 5k HP, meaning Wam cannot just remove it easily. Divine just being really frustrating here, sniping even more villagers. Wham, still not getting the textiles. I think I'd recommend it here. Considering that you have a lot of condensed eco, so there's a lot of splash for Mangonels, and how easily 1 or 2 Mangonels can kill you right now, if you at least got textiles, that extra 25 health actually would be the difference maker to make these Mangonels take an additional shot to obliterate you. Wham, he needs to sort his golden wood. The issue I see right now, and yeah, Divine has identified it as well, is Wam's about to run out of wood, and his secondary wood line is at the front of his base. And that means he might not be able to get the necessary siege together to push Divine away. And right now, the only thing Wam can do is amass as many sprues as possible. He knows he's behind the siege department, he can't afford to go elsewhere about it. The issue I see is Divine. He has a stable economy. It's unpressured right now, which means he can easily just boost into siege himself. And you can see that with the wood being gathered and also the extra gold he's getting, which he can trade via the marketplace to get even more wood, means he should remain ahead for the next few minutes. Mangonel shots coming out. Heavy damage. That crossbow line almost dead. And DivineDFP, he's able to cheese his opponent. The hillsides are working to his advantage here. That was the issue. Wam cannot easily target the siege. That's the problem. There's so many units dead. Wham, starting to hemorrhage here. Needs to stabilize. Keep is his only hope. We'll cover the north side, but what about the south? You need this south side so badly. So many sprinkles. Just long range shivving the veteran Carol Archers. I think it looks all too trivial. The only good news right now for Wam is that Divine never built this outpost as the villager got denied by the Roman Camel Archers. These Camel Archers, they don't have any raid potential. They can't dive this many outposts. One of the big weaknesses of the Camel Archers is they have a lot of raw HP, but it really is raw. They take pure damage. They don't have any missile or melee resistance by default. And notice that Wam hasn't fixed that. He's finally doing it now, trying to get some of these tech researchers. Like, the bigger issue here is, like, it doesn't help you against the Mangonels. The Mangonels will just do their damage regardless. And they're your real issue right now. They're the thing that are going to kill you. And they're the thing that are still unanswered, as the sprint count is still only 2. Meanwhile, now at the 4 for DivineDFP. And yeah, I don't blame Wam for this. He's going into the Siege Workshop to get the trap. My issue is that this needed to happen sooner, or he needed to set up control of the southern wood line before he done this. He's about to run out of trees. This is a very awkward time to spend 300 wood like this. He has at least built up a surplus reserve, as we can see there on the wood front. But he needs to make good use of this. A treb into multiple sprinkles would be the answer, but he needs to make sure he stabilizes his gold to afford for that. You know what? Like, he's getting these imams. I would love to see them. Yeah, there's the herbal medicine being researched. I'd love to see them just actually heal up these lads. There's so many heavily injured crossbows right now. In fact, even better value, just get medical centers. Medical centers would be phenomenal right now. You take heavy hits into your camels, into your crossbows, and you could fix that passively in an AoE around a keep for just 250 resources. That is a banger of a deal. You should take it every day of the week. Remember, by the way, it's reduced to this cost courtesy of the fact that he got the other tech, which reduces the cost of all researchers by 30%. So that's why this is even more affordable at this stage than what it usually would be. Wow, moving out for the Wolves. Trebs already being built by DivineDFP. They are somewhat more exposed than their counterparts, as these are traction trebuchets instead of counterweight ones. The counterweight trebuchets are starting to come out. But this is starting to just stack up quickly. 200 wood structure is going to fall soon, and you haven't even banked a single relic. You haven't found your true value there at all. Sprinkle count still amassing right now, but still outmassed by DivineDFP. Wham, he did find a way to snake this. I love that he actually shifted out finally to get on this wood line, but it's in a fragile state. If he ever gets spotted here, if he ever gets denied, his game is over. You can see on the wood right now, he does not have surplus in reserve. And this poor imam just brought a relic back to base for nothing. He's like, guys, someone get me a camel. I'm going to ride in, screaming Wall at the top of my voice. See if it works. Incoming balance patch for the Abbasids that allow them to do exactly that. And then I'll uninstall the game because camels have ridiculous health, so that would be broken. And considering the Abbasids are the most pick civ right now, I don't think they need another buff like that. Oh my god, the size of this siege army right now. Like, what? This is the perplexing part. Wam has more military force than DivineDFP, but it just doesn't matter because DivineDFP has just enough man-at-arms to hold a front line and then blitz his opponent. And the big issue that you see with Wam's formation, because he's still catching up on the Spirals at all times, he can't afford to build mangonels himself. And that means he can't instantly wipe this line of man-at-arms. And the crossbows don't have the health to stand against those mangonels. Most of them, in fact, still haven't been healed. In fact, I don't think any of these guys have been healed still. And the House of Wisdom's about to fall as well. He's about to lose that gathering rate. This is big. What a play out of DivineDFP. He's just strangling Wam out of this game slowly. And this keep was not optimal for this reason. Wam, he protects his northern flank, but that doesn't matter to DivineDFP. Everything he needs to win the game is right here on this screen here. Trebs, they wheel off so quickly with the Yam movement speed. And these Spriggles, these baby Spriggles, like you can see, like it's still not been researched. Wam, maybe if he gets his hands on the greased axles, he could gap close. But he's playing against Yam. There's a 20% movement speed missing from him that he needs because his opponent already has the 15% buffer, and he doesn't even need to go for a Siege Workshop himself to get greased axles because he identifies how slow Wam Siege is. And here we go. We're reaching that point we talked about, right? First gold vein done, taps into the center. DivineDFP is hitting all of his timings. His wing condition has been realized. Wam has drained himself dry, and he needs to switch into farms as well. We talked about this fragile state of the game. Even if they don't get burnt by the Mongol player, it's still 75 wood for each of these, and you're barely able to access any trees anymore. Straggler trees are all that Wam can reach right now, apart from a small contingent on this wood line, and although he could get more here, he doesn't want to risk it for the biscuit because he can easily be spotted out by DivineDFP. And I don't know, I feel like in this situation, you need to risk it for all the biscuits. Because biscuits is all you got, baby. Win or lose, you need to go now. And he's going to go in, but the mangonels, they can get free shots on this. The crossbow stand on the high ground. Focus fire comes in onto him. The Spriel's stuck there as well. No! The hills! They don't have eyes, but they'll sure make you die. Wham! Oh no! Drunk driving on the Spriggles costs him dearly here, losing far too many troops. And barely any damage done. DivineDFP just racking up the KDA right now, flexing it hard, saying, look how many you're dead, and look how few of mine have fallen. And with such a deficit, it seems like there is no way for Wam to recover. He does not have the wood economy to rebuild this. He will call GG, and a game 3 will be needed. We need a winner here. Game 3 has been forced, and it will take place on Highview between Wam, DivineDFP. So let's get going. And here we go. So into it with more Abbassids, but it's going to be the Roost coming out from Wam. So, of course, remember the Abbassids were played by Wam last game. Roost was not available with DivineDFP as that was the way he opened up the series. And I'm going to make a definitely like far-fetched, wow, big brain meta brain thought that the Delhi was banned by both sides. Yes, I'm just that smart. It's not like it's literally what practically everyone's been doing in this tournament. So instead, we come here onto Highview on a map where I have to feel like Wam already has an edge. This Civ functions fantastically here. And I actually have been talking a lot in the moment about Lipany being an absolutely amazing map for the Roost because the opening that relies on hunting the boar. I actually think Highview is just as good. I actually think in some ways Highview is better because Highview not only has these boars that are usually situated near value, which, by the way, what the hell is this difference maker here? But also it's the fact that they have all these additional wood lines that gives them flexibility in hunter cabins, right? There's a lot more openings that make sense for the Roost. Another detail that actually really benefits the Roost on this map compared to other civs is that Highview is infamous for these loose gold vein generations. What I mean by that is they're so far away, usually that the TC cannot protect your villager line. So you can actually be denied fully without your opponent diving at all. The cool thing about the Roost is they don't actually need gold. They can ignore it completely, right? They literally can just never build a mining camp until halfway, if not later, through feudal, relying on passive trade, passive generation rather from the bounty, then passive trade gains from the Golden Gate, and then even further along, like think about the hunting cabin, which is already down generating 17 gold per minute at this stage. So there's a lot of benefits to Highview for this Civ, and I'm intrigued to see if Wam will go for that ball strategy we've been seeing more and more frequently, because this ball right here is definitely well situated for this very strategy. Just to quickly highlight, I don't understand like what are these ball spots? Like by this logic, this one should be up here, but we won't focus on that too much. Let's focus on what's happened in the bounty system, because so far Wam is sniping a bunch of these. Did yoink a bunch of the wolves as well. Wow, he's got 3 after him. And DivineDFP will try to chase him away. But his only choice is to maybe try and deny some of these deer. He did yoink one of the wolves, but 2 will be heading back with Wam. And Wam, I believe, looks like he's going to easily get that 250 bounty back. In fact, even a little bit higher. Might even crack 300 at this rate. So that's 300 surplus eco his opponent doesn't have, which evens up the difference between these two sides, because it means although as the Abbassids you have that benefit of 30% increased gather rates on berries, your opponent's going to compete. Also, in fairness, he's not that far behind. While the berries are better than the sheep for the Abbassids, the difference with that 30% buffer isn't that big compared to like sheep. So actually, arguably, once Wam has, I'd say, like tier 2 bounty, he should be actually at the same level in terms of gathering that these berry bushes are performing at, if not better. The interesting part for me is Wam. Is he going to be going for pro scouts? He's up to 4 now. It looks like this might just be your standardized pro scouts play. Does make sense up against the Abbassids just because they won't play onto deer themselves, like especially with these generations. This one's a bit too far forward. This one is far off in no man's land to the south, so it should be easy for him to yoink. The question is whether DivineDFP is going to play into spears to deny this equity, which is an easy, stable play to do, but it does leave you vulnerable to Wam, who's playing as the Roost, a civ that if I had to like break down most likely built military structure, I feel like the one that actually has the highest percentage on that pie chart is going to be archery ranges. This civ loves archery ranges. Reason being is that they are hefty on the wood cost, and that's the thing that the Roost have bountiful plenties of, due to the Wooded Fortress, due to their efficiency around gathering wood. Scouts already moving in, so just going to get eyeballs on, but I expect him to just move to the south here and gather up these deer. This can be a little bit of a suboptimal play sometimes. I prefer this play when you have another scout coming out that is going to gather deer instantly nearby. The reason being is like, if you're running all the way south here to gather these deer, how much idle time do you now have with a limited movement speed at about 1.1 running all the way back across the field? You're still gathering sheep, and sheep gather less efficiently. So tech up complete. Scout has not been cancelled. Instead, the scouts are wrapping it around, and he's going to deny it. Oh, Divine gets caught being a greedy boy, delayed on going across onto the mining camp. And I have to wonder why in this situation. Like, what did DivineDFP need here? He got a lot of surplus gold, 194 to be specific. But was there any reason for it? Because I feel like now your opponent can punish you, and he doesn't see Wam until it's too late. So now you invest in the mining camp. He doesn't have a defense force, and he cannot gather here for long due to the fact that it is 4 scouts quickly attacking him. Oh, this is so smart by Wam. Even if he delays this timing by a minute or two, it's a big window of opportunity for Wam, considering how strong the Roost can be at this stage due to their Golden Gate, giving them an efficient economy. Also, it gives him the wiggle room to pad himself for the Wooden Fortress, to the first military buildings, whereas otherwise, he makes this sacrifice, and while he's making this sacrifice, Divine is already building his TC. Instead, in this situation, Divine already losing 1 villager, and he might lose more if Wam keeps up the pressure. But it looks like it's going to be the ball play. There we go, straight to the center. Wam wants the goodies. Brings out 7 villagers. Oh, no! I'm starting to think that this was 8 villagers originally. And he just lost 2. He definitely lost 1, as we just saw there. So not the most ideal of micro. A little bit of a whoopsie-daisy there. Needs to aggro onto the scouts instead. Speaking of scouts, pressure continues. It is delayed Divine. He's still nowhere near ready for this TC. So overall, I'd say Wam has delayed his opponent by close to a minute on this town center timing, which is really good in this situation. It's going to open a window of opportunity, a window that he needs because of what he's done in the center. He needs this wiggle room so that his opponent is a little bit slower on getting his defense force in place. So he can be up to like 10, 11 archers before any military units are coming out from Divine. And considering Divine went this hard on the stone, Wam now has the assurance that is exactly the way his opponent is going to play this opening. So now Divine, because of his limited scout vision, unless he gets eyeballs on this right now and pivots, he's going to be weak for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, he's going to see it as well. He snoops on it. Wam sees him too, so he knows that he's been revealed. And all because his scouts were not in location. It looks like he has now gone back for the pro scout, so we'll look to gather up those carcasses. I like the way he done this, though. I think it's worth delaying pro scouts for this. I've talked about this a little bit before. I've seen people talking about it a lot on Reddit. This ball play is definitely worth it. It's 2k resource. The idle time of running there is actually recouped in the gathering rates, in conjunction with the fact that you have a hunting cabin here for at least the 5-minute window that 8 villagers would take to extract a boar. It's like in that 5-minute window, this is always generating that gold, right? So in that time, if we use that window as an opportunity, as a representative rather, like you're going to gain 2k resources in 5.1 minutes, I think it is, on the board if you have 8 villagers here. In that time, you're also going to get, as you can see with this kind of number, between, I'd say 100 and 150 gold is a safe assessment to give. So the hunting cabin has already paid for itself out of the passive generation. Then it's paid partially for the Wooden Fortress. Not to mention the Wooden Fortress now gives you huge amounts of vision in the center of the map, which is valuable. Also, a defense point where you can protect all your villagers for a very long time at a structure of 2k HP. And it also gives you a flexible option now, because after you're done with this ball, or even before, you can start building archer ranges, you can build into a lumber camp and gather in the center here. And I think that's actually really underrated about this strategy. A lot of people don't realize that this has long-term benefit because you start extracting resources in the center of the map where if the game goes late, those are the resources that matter. You then have fallback resources in your base that are safer to extract at a later point when you maybe come under fire. You know what? Wam doesn't feel under fire at all. He's going to be a greedy boy. Second TC play, and notice he did not have a mining cap. So this is one of the extensions of the power of the Roost at this stage of the game, because you don't have to go mine stone. Instead, with your supplies, you can trade efficiently 100 gold for 150 stone twice, and then instantly plop down a TC, because you can guarantee you've got the required quantity of wood with just how much the Roost gather. Divine, not looking at E3 TC. He's looking to get aggressive. He understands what's possibly coming. Actually, this is maybe a little bit of an overcalibration from Divine. I don't think he needed to build this many military structures. The issue I see is like he didn't keep up scouting vision. Yeah, you can see it here. Like he never double checked on this. There is no base. Like there's no rush coming out from Wam. Wam instead went for the greedy option, and now he gets the info, but the issue is that Divine has overinvested. 5 military buildings means that now his win condition is in the next 5 to 10 minutes. If he doesn't aggress his opponent, then Wam's going to outscale him. Because Wam, well, to start with, if he goes and snipes out of a port, is going to have a 50% food harvest rate increase via the bounty system. On top of that, he's getting that 20% initial drop-off in his Wooden Fortress. He's got 2 TCs to match the scalability of your own economy, and he still has the beneficial trades for the Golden Gate. So overall, Wam's ahead. Like, economically, he will be stronger in the coming minutes than Divine, because Divine has stopped off for a big feudal force that he now needs to use. You know what the big issue with going into a Feudal Force like this is as a reactionary move where you're not aggressive with it? When you do aggress with it, you're going to have to over-calibrate. What I mean by that is when Divine does inevitably have to make a move, he's going to have to build extra rams to make this quick. He's going to have to really push it to the limit if he wants to break his opponent fast enough. Should he choose to just sit back and do nothing, this is wasted. These spears and archers, you've revealed your hand, right? You've built so many military structures here. At this stage, it's unlikely in the next 5 to 10 minutes, at least, that Divine is going to transition into stables. So now Wam has the heads up on what his opponent has done, builds double archery range to address the spears, but now he has the flexibility, if he chooses, to go into stables and beat his opponent on the transitions. That being said, I don't even think he needs stables, right? Like, technically, if Wam just zergs archers, he wins this fight. Because Divine has nothing else. He has archers and spears, both of which get answered by more archers. So really kind of troublesome. I feel like in this situation, DivineDFP has like misplayed his vision game. He's so paranoid about losing these scouts, they haven't been getting vital information. In fact, they've been seeing it this whole time while archers have been running forward. So he won't even expect this attack. This attack might catch him off guard. 7 villagers. Uh-oh. Those are going to be some freebies. We'll look to Garrison, but 3 of them going down, and easily Wam will just peel away after doing that. Knowing the damage is good enough, because DivineDFP, although he has a 3 villager lead, it's not going to escalate, right? So this chip damage actually matters, because it is 2 TC versus 2 TC. And my issue right now is, like, Divine, because he gave over the central area and he never actually built a ram quickly moving out to deny it, his opponent has a staging point and DivineDFP has to go around him. This outpost doesn't delay anywhere near as long as the Wooden Fortress here. The Wooden Fortress with more firepower, extra health, right? The issue is that he allowed Wam to take the center and both of them were playing static forces. The value of this being now, if both of them want to go for trades, Wam takes half the time to breach your central defense. And your central defense is basically in your base anyway. Meanwhile, Divine either has to fight unfavorably, where his opponent has vision in the stealth forest, has this staging point in the center, or he has to go round to the north or the south. These not being options, by the way, because if you have to go north or south to make something happen with static infantry units, it's not only going to take a very long time, double the time of your opponent to reach the eco lines in comparison. It also means you're going to be out of position and your opponent can easily flank you from the center. This has been so well played by Wam. The fact that he identified the center, didn't overinvest in it, but mainly just chose to use it as like a soft point to dictate the flow of this mid game has been phenomenal. And it's why, although Divine will beat the Castle Age, notice that Wam is not far behind him, and he's already started walling rather his opponent in, just trying to create this encampment from which Divine cannot escape. And the archers are in again. This time with Ram. Oh, so many villagers dying. That actually might be all of them at this rate. Just about gets in. Woo! That final arrow was tickling. Now the Ram can move in. Mangonel's being built. Wam does need to be a little bit careful now. He could find himself caught off guard here. Villagers will try to break away. Mangonel's been built. There'll be sidestep, shift back here. Nice dodge. Wam losing, I'd say the minimal there, considering how late he reacted to that. But the Ram now finding some value. Denied this equity. And Divine, he does at least have this backup berry line at the back. But you see the issue here. Limited space. Farms once again not feeling viable. He's going to have to come out and play. He has to fight this. He can't afford to go without these berry patches. It's what's sustaining him right now. And Wam, well, Wam can get whatever the hell he wants. He's got so many deer still sitting underneath his TC because he can have pretty much everything. Just a 1 or 2 left back here and over to the sides. But then also he has that boar, right? The boar that's now finally been extracted. He might even shift to the south. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for this southern play, just because it's sufficient with the hunting cabin in the tree line, giving extra gold, and then the boar to gather from as well. And it's unlikely, once again, that Divine would ever look for this, because he is playing with a static force. In the meantime, Wam will use his staging point to get the nice passive trickle as he starts to push out the warrior monks. And Divine, is he going to try to contest this? It looks like no. This is just a forfeit. There is one relic maybe that Wam doesn't get in this game. The rest are easily like grabbable, right? So he's got one here. He just grabbed one in the center, and there's 2 up here. Actually, we didn't talk about this because usually we only bring it up when it's an HRE matchup. But this generation was kind of a spit in the face for Divine. So there's the initial wood line issue where like he has to extend to the front of his base to access a second wood line. And then there's the relic generation, where if an HRE player was here in the north, people would be in the chat screaming remake right now. Looks like DivineDFP trying to breach. But this takes a lot longer. Remember, 4-5 Palisades, having 3,000 health, and that's going to buy time for Wam to poke and prod on the south side, drawing your attention away, delaying you ever further. And Divine, make no mistake, he needs this room. He needs to start getting these farms down. Always comes back to that budgeting issue when you talk about room, space for constructions. And speaking of constructions, Wam is constricting him further with his constructions as he moves out into the forest to drop more of these wooden fortresses, creating a natural kind of influence zone around DivineDFP's base, where not only can he see what his opponent is doing, but he can snipe out any move towards his pocket ecos. Now Knights gonna go wide here. Nice move by Divine to try and scout this out, but I feel like right now Divine's big issue is that he doesn't necessarily have the mobility still. I wouldn't mind seeing some Lancers, like 2 or 3 Lancers just to dive into his opponent's base, because Wam's been playing so aggressive, he hasn't actually layered himself back in his base. He's trying to do that now, a little bit delayed, and might get punished for it. But overall, because he's been so focused on the center here, getting the 4 Palisades down, he actually doesn't have the safety net back in his own base. Something that Divine could have exploited if he dropped just maybe even 1 stable. I think Divine, his perspective is that if his opponent did eco, then actually he wants to end the game in Castle, because a Roos player is stronger in Imperial than an Abbasid. So I think that's exactly why he's now ramping up the pressure in the center, because Divine is very much now on the clock. Like, with the economy similarly scaling, arguably Wam's doing better now with all the relics and the gathering rates. He's going to be able to access Imperial quicker. It's bad enough if you both go Imperial at the same time because the Roos have the siege advantage. It's even worse if your opponent's head with the shut triggers with the additional range that is unique to the Roos that will make sure you'll never be able to get the anti-siege trades, and it means you'll never be able to amass Mangonels. And Mangonels are the key to breaking the composition that Wam has right now, heavy in on the archers and the crossbows. These Spirals are just getting so many freebies right now. DivineDFP, like, what's going on here? Something has gone wrong here. A few people out for patrol will not make it back to base. And wooden fortresses continue to be built. Wow. Well, if any more villagers ever had to come out to this expansion on the berries, they would easily be sniped now. It looks like Divine needs this southern gold line. Makes sense as well. Like, I don't think he's... Yeah, he does see it. Yeah, he can see it. So he sees this wood fortress, and that's why he doesn't go for this gold up here. He doesn't want to waste time trying to get through it. He's about to drain this gold vein in his base. He has got the one in the south, but he knows that won't last long. He needs a huge influx of gold to sustain this castle age, understanding that his opponent has gathered pretty much all the relics, so his gold isn't going down anytime soon. In fact, where is the 4th relic? What in the deuce? Oh, wait. What? Oh, no. No. No, say it isn't so. Not like this. Wow. This move. 10 villagers, 2 knights. I don't think DivineDFP can stop this. He needs this gold so badly, but Wam has read it perfectly. Oh, my. And the knights, although they're riding to the west, they'll turn around quickly when they see what's waiting outside of this shrubbery. And Wam, he'll realize he can't build it as he walks in. Oh, no! Wam, the Q! Oh, that is a whoopsie-daisy and a half. He'll peel back now. That's because the keep got cancelled. The keep got cancelled because there were structures in the way, so they automatically moved to build the mining camp. So instead of trying to build a keep right at the edge here, maybe still having an edge, he's forced to build it further away now, meaning he does not dominate and fully deny DivineDFP. That being said, Knights are wrapping back in. And DivineDFP is trying to rush an outpost himself here. Trying to prevent that keep from going up. Wam is heavily invested at this stage. He needs to complete this. Crossbows are moving across, and it's still no textiles, so these villagers do fall flat quick. Knights right in. Villagers being targeted out. This is going to be tight. Wam! Can he get it? Oh, Knights do draw fire for the moment. That might have been enough. I think it's going to complete. Yes, keep goes up. Wam! Just about gets it. 4 villagers left. And now he has the staging point. And now Divine is frustrated. He no longer feels safe in this area. And the map is shrinking quickly. The Knights, while all this was happening, rode in on the west side to deny the rest of this berry bush line, and there's still a lot of food left over here. Walls also going up. The map is shrinking quickly for Divine, and Divine needs an answer soon. Meanwhile, the center, Wam is the one covered with the answers. Pushing forward, Springles in the field. Divine, he lost all of his. Divine, what happened here? His siege army is dead. And now Wam is taking up. And archers really were the answer to it all. And actually, a really smart answer, by the way. Think about the cost differential here. He only needs a few crossbowmen, because actually the Spriels, the Magos, they can address the man-at-arms in mass from range. If you are building archers instead of crossbows to fulfill a similar function, the difference is notable here. The food cost, but more importantly, the gold. So although you spend more wood, you as the Roost can afford to spend more wood. What you limit yourself with is the gold. The gold is where you're going to actually get stunted when it comes to siege production. Because he's actually able to afford so much wood, he invests it there instead, which means he's actually able to afford additional siege weapons and the siege workshops alongside them to push out units from. And it means that he's able to keep the siege advantage over an ambassador player, something that we did not say so frequently in the Castle Age phase of the game. This Treb being a nuisance needs to be addressed. Archer's looking to poke and prod. Man-at-arms moving in. Magos looking for their shots. Peel back here. Wam has to give some ground over. He just showed a little bit of weakness here. The tech up is obvious, and DivineDFP knows he has to make a move, so he goes. The trade out comes again. Spriels favorably trading for Wam once more as he retreats away. Mangonels get their shots out. The archers holding the ground long enough that a lot of damage has done to these man-at-arms. And these man-at-arms really haven't been doing the number yet. The Mangonel still firing at the backside. This fight is evening up in favor of Wam at the end of this. And the Mangonel is distracting so many of the man-at-arms, which are hardly able to keep pace with it. And the villager force blocked by the Spriel battalion. And that just kind of shows you how big the siege force is. Wam still maintaining the lead, and Divine now in trouble. Nowhere near ready for a tech up himself, and this was his window of opportunity. If he couldn't punish Wam now, Wam was going to get access to the tech ups. And now that they are in place, these Spriggles are unassailable. 13.5 tile range, and DivineDFP, the issue still remains. Static force, no cavalry, no answer, no wraparound, and even if he went for cavalry now, he has no way of quickly breaking through due to the enclosures which Wam set up. That means the only way he can go is through the center. And I don't think he wants to be there. These confident Spriggles. Wam? Buddy? Yeah, just pretend you're a blue Spriggled. I'm sure they'll fall for it. A little bit of drunk driver there. We'll peel them back now after losing one. And I believe, yeah, that's Streltsy time. Streltsy answer everything now. Like, the Mangonels can't do anything. DivineDFP, this is a suboptimal build, but it's his only choice. Like, he has to gamble that a tree line hides his Mangonels, and he gets good shots out. Because if he plays Spriggle to Spriggle, he loses the game. And we already said he doesn't have the flexibility to wrap on the sides to utilize cavalry. So really his only play here, and I think it might be why he stopped like cutting all the way through the tree line as well, although he could have went a little bit deeper, is if he actually baits Wam into this choke point, his Mangonels can fire across the tree lines, catching his opponent off guard. I think it's genuinely, at this stage, the only way that Divine can take a favorable fight that won't end with him surrendering some ground. Wam is weak on the food right now. It looks like he keeps delaying the farm transition. Yes, that's exactly what it's been. I think he's ran out now. Yeah, so this is where you get to the awkward state. Yeah, he's on the berries for the moment, but he's running out quick. So Wam does have weakness coming in the next 2 to 3 minutes if he loses his force. It's really important that he doesn't take a bad fight, that he doesn't rush to end this game. The Bombards are going to start to apply some pressure. Streltsy sidestepping, a few of them going down. Price unit 180 resources. Yes, you heard me correctly. You can see their absurd price there. 35 seconds as well, just to produce them. The Streltsy will just start a step back, but you can see the ground that Divine's given over. Divine, he can't afford to give too much ground right now. Golden Age, he was about to crack the tier 3, but he won't get there now because the structures are going to start falling. The Bombards are ensuring it quickly. The Bombards, which there are no answer to still. And the keep, Wam, feeling dominant right now. And this will most definitely force a fight out of DivineDFP. He has no choice but to fight this. If this keep goes up, it's the beginning of the end. There's so many Mangonels. 6. A trebuchet also being built. The keep being constructed now. He rolls forward. Bombards. Hurling their ball and balls at anything that stands in their way. Spriels trying to target out here. Force the Mangonels back. Divine's not willing to sacrifice them. And this is a mistake. He needs to go sacrifice them. They go for the shots now. Heavy damage. Villager line's going to be denied. But now stuck at the choke point, needs to be careful. Streltsy firing away. Spriels getting rid of the Siege Battalion on the other side. Rolling back slowly. He's baiting him in. The Mangonel shots, heavy damage done here. The Man-at-Arms division is not going to last long. But for the moment, Divine lives. Or does he? The one villager to rule them all, but it's not going to be good enough. It doesn't matter. Too much damage done here. Wham, too late with the final villager pulling in. It wouldn't have mattered. However, the front line is now dead, and that's a bigger detail. DivineDFP, although he gets a moment of reprieve, it will be only a moment. Because for all that, Wham did not lose the Streltsy. 23 remaining, multiple Mangonels, multiple Spriggles. DivineDFP caught in full rebuild mode. So what does Wham do? Goes for another keep. Because he will not be denied. Mangonels. Obliterate a few villages here or there. Trebs firing away. Spriels trying to sidestep, taking some heavy hits here, but Spriels able to get their trades out. With their additional range, they really do have the edge. The Mangonel fire coming in. The range formation for DivineDFP not lasting long. The farm's also on fire. So much heavy damage done, and the Streltsy trying to sidestep. Heavy hit there. Good work from Divine, but he's lost it all now. Final Mangonel about to fall. So much siege left alive. Wham might lose the pricey Streltsy, but the less pricey villagers are in, and this time, with no Mangonels to combat them, this keep will go up, and DivineDFP will go down. Down to the lower bracket, because there is no way back from this. Wham sitting up at 44 military, Divine about to go into single digits, as the digit in this game will go up to 2 for Wham, and he will continue through in the winners bracket.